I believe that government is within its rights to lock things down. I believe that government is within its rights to lock things down. And I asked you to go there to Leviticus 13. And let me just go ahead and say this, because here's what I've heard a lot of people say. The government has the right to lock you down and quarantine you if you're sick. They don't just have the right to quarantine all of us. They have the right to quarantine you if you're sick. Well, here's the problem with that. You must have never actually read Leviticus 13. Because in Leviticus 13 and verse 4, the Bible says this: if the bright spot be white in the skin of his flesh, and the sight be not deeper than the skin, and the hair thereof be not turned white, then the priest shall shut up him that hath the plague 7 days. And the priest shall look on him the seventh day. And behold, if the plague in his sight be at a stay. So they shut him up for 7 days. 7 days later, they look, re-examine him, and it's at a stay, and the plague spread not in the skin. Then the priest shall shut him up 7 days more. Look at verse 6. And the priest shall look on him again the seventh day. The second set of 7 days, 14 days. And behold, if the plague be somewhat dark, and the plague spread not in the skin, the priest shall pronounce him clean. Notice what it says. It says, it is but a scab. See, this guy actually didn't have an infectious leprosy. They just thought he might have a leprosy. They locked him up for 14 days, and then they've said, oh, it's just a scab. And he shall wash it. If they think you might be spreading leprosy, he can lock you up for 7 days. After 7 days, if he's still not sure, he can lock you up for another 7 days. And then after 14 days, he can say, oh, it's just a scab. Sorry. So the Bible doesn't teach that the government has the right to quarantine you if you're sick. No, you know what? They have the right to quarantine you, according to Leviticus 13, if they think you might be spreading leprosy. If they think you might be spreading sickness. And with the coronavirus, and obviously you can't apply Leviticus 13 specifically to coronavirus because Leviticus 13 is about leprosy, all right? We're not going to check people to see if they have coronavirus based on whether they have a yellow hair coming out of their arm, all right? That's obviously specifically dealing with leprosy, but we can take the principle from that God says, look, if there's something that can spread, then you have the right as a government to lock people in to make sure it doesn't spread. And again, based off the research that we're getting from multiple places, what we're being told is that this virus has an incubation period of a long time, meaning you can have it for, I've heard 1 week, maybe even up to 2 weeks, without showing symptoms, yet you're spreading it. They're telling us it can live on a hard surface for several days. So I hear people say statements like this, well, I'm well, so I can't get anybody sick. And I think to myself, yes, but if somebody who has coronavirus opens a doorknob, and 3 days later you open the same doorknob and you have it, and for 2 weeks you don't feel any symptoms, but a week into that you're telling people, well, I'm not sick. I mean, are you God? Do you just know everything? Are you omniscient? Do you know every person you've ever came in contact? Here's the whole point. The reason they're locking us down is because they don't know who's spreading it. The way this virus works, it's hard to tell because you could be spreading it for weeks and feel no symptoms. We're told some people could be spreading it and never feel any symptoms. So, and the Bible says that if they think you might be spreading it, they can lock you down and say, hey, let's try to contain this for the security of the people. So, and again, you can make statements like, well, I'm not sick, so I'm not going to get anybody else sick. How do you know that? How do you know that you didn't get coronavirus today and for the next 2 weeks you're going to feel great, but be spreading it?